Welcome to the Techne Automotive Podcast, aimed at inspiring the next generation of EE-related talent to choose a career within our space, whilst also supporting the current EE talent pool in making key career decisions. In each episode, we interview industry leaders to discuss their unique career paths, advice for those starting out in the automotive industry, as well as important issues currently impacting the sector. My name is Freese, and I'm responsible for connecting automotive businesses to the best EE-related talent. Today, we are joined by Wolfgang Freese from APTIV in the studio. Wolfgang started to specialise in functional safety just before the ISO 26262 standard was introduced in 2011 and was one of the first engineers to take up a career in functional safety in the industry and has since developed a very successful career within this space. Somewhat now becoming a rarity, Wolfgang has worked for APTIV since the start of his career and is a great case study to show how you can continue to progress even if you remain at the same company. In this episode, we'll explore Wolfgang's insight into building a successful career in functional safety, as well as his advice into tackling the challenges across the industry. Good morning, Wolfgang. First of all, how are you?
I'm fine. Good morning, Ferris. How are you?
Very good, thank you. Very good. Should we start with some introductions?
Let's go for it.
So obviously, myself, co-founder at Techne, managing the Techne Connect podcasts, and yourself, Wolfgang?
Director of Functional Safety at the APTIV company.
Brilliant. And before we jump into your career, which I'm excited to share with people, obviously you've got a fantastic career, especially within the functional safety spectrum. But who's Wolfgang outside of work, first of all?
Yeah, so who am I outside work? Family first, I would say. Certainly the backbone of my life. I'm happily married with the love of my life. Got wonderful kids. And a sweet little granddaughter for about a year now. What else? I'll just give you some keywords. Maybe that would be music, listening, and also playing guitar, dancing, boogie, football, German Bundesliga, but also Premier League from time to time. Being out in the woods or at the sea. Yeah, I think these kind of things is what I fancy.
We'll jump straight into your career. And where you studied. Let's start with your studies first of all.
Well, okay. Background is I'm a PhD physicist. So I made my PhD in physics in 2001, a year after I joined APTIV, which used to be Delphi back then. That was plasma and atomic physics, and that was actually. It looks like this has nothing to do with what I do today, but actually it does. Maybe we can back to that later.
No problem. And then when you always had a passion, didn't you? When I spoke with you, had a passion for very much science and technology from an early age.
That's true. I mean, if you go study physics and let's say you even do your PhD in that, you must have a passion for science and technology, and in particular, you must be very curious, trying to find out how things actually work, trying to figure out cause-effect chains in nature or in technology.
Yes.
And that is actually what happened. I mean, from the early childhood, I was very keen in understanding things and how things play together, how they impact each other. I think that's the background, based on the foundation based on which I started the career and, well, actually, eventually ended up where I'm now.
Absolutely. And that curiosity, I presume, is still there.
I guess so, yeah. I'm supposed to.
Yeah. When you initially came into the industry, you've been at Delphi, now obviously APTIV, throughout your whole career, haven't you? Which is quite rare.
Well, we still have many colleagues which cross the 20, 25, 30 or even 40 years with APTIV. Apparently they don't belong to the young generation anymore. But with the young generation, it's slightly different. They grab opportunities offered to them. And my view on this always is, why not? Go, make your experience. Many of those who left APTIV came back. Why? Because APTIV has a very competitive and working environment. And as a consequence of that, people leave the company, they make their experiences in other companies, and many of them come back because they appreciate the working environment we have. It's good, as I said, competitive. And that same for me. I mean, if you stay like 20 years, 23 years, 25 years, you know what you have. And you also know, because you're connected with other companies, you also know that situation is not different in other companies. It's different processes, different products maybe, but bottom line, it is comparable, and in most cases not better. I appreciate the working environment I have found in APTIV, and so most likely I stay for the remainder of my career if possible.
And you started as an embedded software engineer, didn't you?
Right, that's true. And the reason is that during the studies, I worked in a lab, so I'm an experimental physicist, and I measured or captured tons of data which I needed to evaluate. And back then in 1999, 2000, around about this time frame, there weren't too many tools out there to support you in evaluating the data. I remember that I used to use one of the first MATLAB versions which was released back then. But it was, let's say, it wasn't that comfortable. So I decided to do my own software for the data evaluation, data management, file management, all these kind of things. And that worked out quite well. And I thought this could be a good area on which I would like to work. And so I just scanned the internet. Google wasn't out there back then, of course, but I scanned the internet. I was searching for jobs which were with keywords like software development, technology, application, these kind of things. I found Delphi by chance. So I just gave them a call, and well, it was just two little steps, and I was offered a job as an embedded engineer, embedded software developer.
Fantastic. And you then, so after you did the embedded software, you then started taking more of a lenience towards test and like test systems overall, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, correct memory. So I did the embedded software development for a couple of years. I changed over to a test system development department, which was doing test systems for R&D and production for a couple of years. And then by chance, someone asked me if I would be interested in joining a newly founded team of functional safety managers and engineers. Sound interesting back then, so I gave it a go. And now I'm here, still in that area.
If you go back then to 2010, and obviously you went into a brand new functional safety group. Ultimately, you were well ahead of the curve for the functional safety implementation. That's obviously now more of a commonality, isn't it, across the sector?
Correct. Back then, when I joined, what they gave me was a draft of the 2011 edition of ISO 26262. There was one guy who was working on the IC 61508 previously. He soon left the company because he was just looking for new challenges, opportunities. So we took over as a team what he did so far, but in terms of standardized process, methods, tools, there wasn't that much back then. So we really started from scratch. And from day one, my focus was on, let's say, not only applying the standard in order to achieve safe designs, but also try to figure out how can we improve our processes, methods, tools, templates, these kind of things. So really trying to standardize across the company.
A big task. But you travelled a lot as well, didn't you? Because you've obviously continued to grow within that role. Talk through where you've travelled, because I think it's a key point.
I mean, one part of if you take this responsibility and you are given the responsibility and also authority, then, I mean, you have to take it. And so you have to develop these kind of things, but developing things and uploading them onto a kind of server that is the operating system. So integrating all these new developments into the company's operating system is one part, but that doesn't help the engineers. They don't understand how to apply. They don't even understand it's out there. So you have to travel around. You have to meet the engineers. You have to talk to them. You have to show them, okay, this is what we have developed. This is what you can use now, and I'm going to tell you how you use it. And it's a bit more than that, because they would question, okay, why would I have to use it? You just come along and tell me I have to use it. Why would I?
And then you explain to them, well, we have to achieve compliance with standards and regulations. So of course we have to apply our processes, and we have to make sure the processes support the compliance in the end. And I developed these process method, or let's say not only myself, of course, there was a team behind, but as for me, I traveled around and explained to the guys, what I present to you is the process methods tools, which are the interpretation of the standard. So you're not going to read the standard, please. You listen and you apply what we develop, because we did the interpretation, the translation into engineering language already for you. And so I traveled a lot around the world, US, Europe, China, India, met dozens of guys, explained to them how to do functional safety. And that was big fun. I mean, that was very interesting for me. It's not only that I'm the teacher, they are the pupils. I mean, they have to learn. I also learn. A teacher always learns while teaching, of course. And that was also a great opportunity provided by my company to me to grow, of course.
And it's a really key point, isn't it? I think if somebody's looking to adopt a career within the functional safety spectrum, you're quite right. There's two areas. There's the actual doing the job and the creation of processes, etc. But then there's also that behavioural side where you need to be able to not necessarily persuade, but that implementation piece across your own teams, across other suppliers. It's very difficult. It's not an easy task, that.
Oh, indeed. It is a challenge. What you touch is called developing a safety culture. And as a responsible for functional safety in a company, you have to develop all the artifacts which are required for product development and verification and manufacturing, of course. But you are also responsible for ensuring that all those engineers and program managers and all the staff who has to apply functional safety, they must accept this. So they must understand why this is so key for the achievement of functional safety and eventually for the safety of our end users, our customers. And in particular, in a global company with so many different cultures, convincing all the engineers, all the teams of what you developed, that they should apply and that this will help achieving functional safety. That's not, I wouldn't say difficult, but it's a challenge, and you really have to adapt your methods, your own ways to talk to people, to discuss with people, to receive feedback. But it's definitely a chance to grow as well.
Rather than it being an afterthought after designing everything, actually have it at the heart of what you do.
Right. You need to think safety from the beginning on. Yeah. So you develop function, you implement function or realize a function with a technical system. So you design hardware and software in the end. And from day one, you need to understand this is the target function that I want to release to the market. And so you need to figure out, okay, how can this function fail? And which of these function failures can actually add even more risk to the end user? And so what are the root causes inside my design? What are external root causes? And how can I control all these? And that actually is the key of functional safety.
Yeah, no, brilliant. And you continue to progress, didn't you? So you're now obviously the director of functional safety, but you've ran local teams, you've ran global teams.
So in the very beginning, I was functional safety manager and responsible for projects only. But then I took over responsibility for the German projects. So having a small team of German guys. It was more leadership rather than management. So there was no direct reporting back then, but taking leadership sometimes is it's even more important. Technical leadership. And then next step was European responsibility and then global responsibility, where I am.
Fantastic. And it's still ongoing, of course.
It is. It will never become boring, I guess. Yeah?
No.
Because there are always challenges. I mean, we always want to be mobile. We will always drive any kind of vehicle. I mean, maybe in 10 years from now, they will be different to what we have today. Who knows? But we will. I mean, mobility is key for our societies. And as long as there's mobility, there are challenges in the area of functional safety and SOTIF. And I mean, one of the next key topics, of course, which is already out there, is artificial intelligence, AI, machine learning,
Of course.
neural networks. These kind of things are entering the market more and more. And the more we give responsibility to such systems, the more we want to take or move responsibility from the drivers or people in general to the technical solutions. The more we have to make sure they are safe. So we control any kind of safety relevant or safety critical malfunction. And with AI ML, there are special questions which wouldn't appear with classical algorithms or technologies, and that's a very challenging. It's just one example that's still not boring.
No, and we'll talk about it shortly about what we expect coming up. But functional safety is going to grow in even bigger importance, and one of the trends you've just mentioned there is key. But before that, looking back in your career now, what's been your flagship moments? What you're most proud of?
I think most proud. One of the things I'm definitely proud of is that when I started to work as a functional safety manager, it was not limited to pure management. It also includes engineering. So I was kind of made responsible, also felt responsible in a naive way as a beginner, newbie, to do all the safety analysis. And fault tree analysis is one of the key methods, maybe among FMEA or HACCP, for functional safety, because you start with the malfunction of your system and you try to figure out the root causes. So you go backwards into your design. What I figured out back then is that fault tree analysis is known for decades as a powerful tool to understand root causes. What I found is that there was no method available or no standardization or standard for how to structure fault trees. But the internal structure of a fault tree and defines the logic of the fault tree. So what kind of malfunctions can cause what kind of error or fault, and sometimes and how are these root causes combined or need to combine in order to cause what we call top level event, which is actually the malfunction in the end. So there was no method that really explains or describes how should I build a fault tree based on a given, let's say, architectural block diagram. And what I did is I developed such a method and presented this on several conferences, workshops, discussed with many experts inside APTIV, outside APTIV, and actually published the method as a book in 2015.
Fantastic.
Yeah, unfortunately in German only, but anyway, it's out there. And some of the key ideas I then published in English on LinkedIn, of course. But that was probably one of the things I would say I'm really proud of having achieved that.
Huge achievement. It's a huge achievement, and it's it's a continuous learning piece for people as well. If they can read the book, so it's a really good point. You've also obviously managed a lot of people, and I know developing engineers, especially across the functional safety area. I know you've had a lot of success in developing strong engineers as well.
Right. Part of my responsibility is also to travel around and visit the teams and explain how to actually apply what I develop with my teams. So with APTIV as a global company, of course, you get in touch with a lot of different cultures, but also different disciplines, from project managers, project leads, systems engineers, system architects, software developers, hardware guys. So all these guys, you have to explain how to do functional safety. So you start with the basics so that they develop a sound understanding of the basic ideas of functional safety. And next you explain to them how to use the artifacts that you developed for their specific area or competence area. And that is an amazing task to do, because you really have to be very adaptive with respect to your soft skills if you meet so many different people, personalities from different cultures. Great opportunity to grow that is given by such a company, I have to say.
Absolutely. Talk about learnings. If you go back to yourself now at 16 years old, now you know what you know in the industry and what you've achieved already, what would you go and tell yourself?
Number one, definitely always stay curious and brutally honest with yourself. So don't try to hide your own weaknesses, work on them, identify them, figure out how to improve, work on that, but don't try too hard. Don't forget to think about work-life balance. It's really important to stop from time to time, step out, recharge, go back to work. I think these are the most important points, which I would, that's the advice I would give myself.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And one thing we've discussed previously is, when you move from university into the commercial world, that's a huge change, isn't it?
Oh yes. I mean, the ivory tower, as university is called sometimes, usually doesn't have. You usually don't see that. Let's say the constraints which you definitely have in the industry, like timing constraints, budget constraints, resource constraints. So when you move over from university into industry, that is a significant change in the working environment. And it's not easy to manage this in the beginning. So what you need someone to coach you, to mentor you. But you can also prepare yourself. I mean, if you identify this as a challenge coming soon, prepare yourself. Try to work. I mean, even during your studies, you can try benchmark yourself. How good am I working under stress? Now, or you just do some apprenticeships and try to figure out, is that what I want to do? Is that what I can do? So go and get in contact with the industry. Try to get apprenticeships and just do it.
Yeah, it's really good advice. But one interesting topic that we've discussed together, it's like the idea of implementing functional safety across either products, across a team. You talked about like triggering creativity from team members and ultimately like thrashing out ideas, which then can trigger other people's thoughts. So you've got a way of managing, and that's brought you quite a lot of success. Do you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, sure. So what I usually do is when I deploy new material, I get back to the engineers after a while and ask them, how does it work out? Does it really help you? Does it help you to do your work more efficiently, more effectively? And they would come back with feedback, which I can then use to further improve the material, revise it if necessary, or just get the confirmation that, well, what you did is actually helping us now. So thank you for it. So both things are happening. That's one topic. But another point is that while you develop material, you would ask the engineers to provide feedback, because all of them, they usually have good ideas, suggestions, and you want to use them when developing new material or revising, improving existing materials. So what I established is regular meetings where we do kind of brainstorming, or they just throw their ideas. And that actually helps a lot in defining goals as a team effort. So not just me as the expert defining the targets for new developments or further improvements. No, we do this as a team. It's a team effort. And then it's a team success, which is celebrated.
Yeah, so it's really key. We look into the EE industry. We look at functional safety as a topic, and if someone was going to invest now 5-10 years into coming into this space, what do you feel is coming up? You mentioned obviously the safety for AI and ML, but from your perspective, what's coming up in the next 5-10 years?
So one important topic will be OTA, over the air, which means you will be able to download software for controllers over the air, similar to how you update applications on the smartphone. So the system will verify that there is a new software available, will ask you to confirm the download, you confirm the download, and the system will get updated. Quite simple, but with certain implications on the safety and security of the system, of course. And that is what is important for us as functional safety responsibles. Yeah, and then AI/ML technology will play a bigger role than it already plays today, because more and more systems will be using AI/ML technologies for different tasks, not only for pattern recognition, object classification, but also for other tasks. And that is definitely coming because it is so powerful and so efficient. But on the other hand, from a functional safety perspective, also from a cybersecurity perspective, we have to be prepared, and we will be prepared. The whole industry is, for instance, is developing standards for using AI/ML technology in the context of safety critical applications. That is something which is coming soon and which is really interesting topic.
You mentioned, didn't you, that there's a new standard that's going to be released, isn't there, for AI and ML specifically?
Yeah, a couple of new standards will be out there. It's a bit IP protected at the moment, so but as you can imagine, I mean, whenever there's new technologies which are let's say significantly impacting the market, there must be standard and regulations, and same for AML.
So we've looked at the software-defined vehicles piece, and then the adoption of cybersecurity practices that are working in tangent with functional safety processes. That's going to be huge, isn't it?
Yes, and it is already huge, but it's a good example why it is so important that functional safety and cybersecurity go hand in hand. If you provide a functionality like over-the-air updates, you have to make sure that the software that you download and install is not corrupted in any way and may impact the functional safety of your vehicle. Another example would be functions like lane change assist, which means that the vehicle will be able to do the lane change without you. So you don't have to do anything at all. It's the vehicle which will do the lane change. And you don't want anybody else from outside to take over control and perform the lane change when you don't want to have a lane change. So as a tier 1 supplier, we as APTIV, we have to make sure that our systems are sufficiently protected against such external attacks. So nobody will be able to take over control from outside the vehicle. And that is where functional safety and cybersecurity really come together. And it's so key that they go hand in hand in order to ensure and guarantee the safety of the driving for our end customers.
Absolutely key. A question for yourself, Wolfgang, just because you've had such a successful career so far within functional safety. If an engineer was looking at career choices within automotive, within the EE spectrum, why would you recommend functional safety as a technical specialism?
Oh, certainly, because you work on so many levels when you do functional safety. You work with the customer, developing vehicle safety concepts. You work on controller level. You work on system, software, hardware level. You do functional safety in the test and verification area, in manufacturing. So it is so, it's never boring. There will be challenges in the future, as I explained earlier. So new things coming up like AI/ML technologies, raising new questions. And there's a need for experts in the markets. Yeah? So functional safety is still, I mean, even though the ISO 26262 is out for 12 years now, there is still a need for experts. So there are many reasons why I would recommend functional safety as a technical specialism. Well, go for it if you are interested in doing these kind of things and ensuring the safety of customers or end users. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, and I just want to re-emphasize a message you said before. You know, don't look at functional safety as don't look at it as a criteria such or a standard. Actually look at doing things properly from the start.
Absolutely. And this is why it makes that area so interesting, at least for me and my colleagues. It is really, you can really do functional safety on the design level. You can be part of product design, newest technologies, future technologies, because you help making these designs safe. In order to achieve that, you need to understand the technology up to the lowest level of detail, of course. So you will always be at the frontier of new technologies, understanding the new technologies and then deriving safety concepts that are to be implemented in order to achieve that functional safety target.
Yeah. To wrap up the podcast, from your perspective, based on everything you've achieved so far, why develop a career within the automotive industry?
Yeah, mobility is key to our societies, and I think will always be. So even though we don't know what kind of vehicles we will see in the future, maybe the vehicles we have today may be completely different concepts. It doesn't really matter, but mobility itself will always play a key role in for societies, and so that is definitely a reason why automotive industry will always be a key player among the industries. So that's a reason why I would recommend developing a career in the automotive industry. But also, it's never boring. It's challenging. It chases you. So if you're interested in a dynamic environment with products developing dynamically every now and again, if that's what you are interested in, automotive industry is one of the industries that will certainly meet your expectation, if not even exceed your expectation.
It's a fantastic message. Opportunity to be a hero is something we've said previously together.
Oh yes, yeah. Of course. Okay, that's a very important keyword, because I mean, functional safety can be extremely complex and complicated. And I mean, if it wasn't like that, there wouldn't be heroes. So go become a hero.
What a great message to end the podcast on. Just want to thank you for the insights. It's great insight, especially into the functional safety world. So thanks very much for taking the time out and joining us.
Ferris, thank you. Thanks a lot for having me with you. It was a pleasure to be with you and to be in your podcast. Thank you.
Thank you very much.